Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of our podcast. And today we're diving into some game changing updates from the Google AI labs, specifically for the Gemini models, because they got a new upgrade to build upon the trust and verification part of the whole AI models they have released. And we will also dive quickly into the Gemini watermarking, which Koen will do a deep dive of, and let's dive into it. I think we've looked up quite a few blog articles that we want to take a look at together. I've prepared a little demo in the Google Vertex AI suite to show more about grounding, but maybe we should start about discussing actually what grounding in AI models is and why it's even useful. So Koen, anything you want to add before we dive into the details?
Well, maybe I also read something about OpenAI launching GPT Search. So I'm also curious about the difference between grounding in Gemini and GPT Search. So maybe that's another topic we can address.
Yeah. So where shall we start?
I think with explaining what grounding is. I think that's the first.
So I think there are a couple different ways you can tell models what you want. So of course we are already used to fine-tuning AI language models, which means you give it examples of questions you might ask the model or instructions you want to give the model, and then good answers that you're expecting, and then fine-tune the model, and then it will be more inclined to give you the right answers. And this has been possible for a while, but now we've moved, at least with the Gemini models and maybe a little bit with GPT Search, but we'll touch on that later, on grounding AI models. And that actually means the models can go through the internet before they give their final answer, and then use the internet or any other sources to provide you a more correct answer. So to prevent hallucinations that we all know from the AI models, and a couple other benefits. But I think that nicely summarizes it. Anything to add, Koen?
Well, like you said, it also partially answers my question about the difference between GPT search and grounding. But is it then safe to say that if the latest model from OpenAI, O1, if this model has GPT search combined, it then acts the same as grounding in Gemini? So it first reasons to get an answer, searches the internet to verify that answer, and then outputs the actual answer to the user.
I think in some sense it could be pretty similar, but you also have to. I think you can see that later if I show you the demo. Google has always been very good with their model structure. So they have small models that can answer really, really fast, and they're good at indexing stuff and then presenting you search results fast. And if you compare what they have now with, for instance, a browsing feature that ChatGPT had in a long time, it works quite a bit different. It can instantly search all the Google search results, so to say, that are relevant for a specific topic, while you could see maybe the browsing feature in ChatGPT more of someone behind a computer actually looking for a relevant term in the search results, but not query all the knowledge Google has on a certain topic necessarily. So I think that's the main difference. So they the search feature or the browse feature in ChatGPT is more kind of how you would do it yourself on Google. And now with the grounding feature of Google, it's instantly searching hundreds of Google search results to include, and then also go to those pages, get the information from those pages, and use it as supporting context for formulating your answer, and really quickly. So
that's the main advantage then of Google, that they have the Google search engine already.
Yeah.
Compared to OpenAI, for example.
Yes, and that it's already available, right? So for us as developers building all kinds of applications around AI, it's the flick of an option, and then you have it. And another cool thing is that you can steer the model towards if it's going to use those search results or not, and so that's on or off. But you can also configure a certain percentage, so the model can decide on its own if it's going to use those search results or not. So when the knowledge doesn't require recent information, for instance, or very detailed information around a certain topic, then it doesn't have to go through the search, and of course then reduce latency in formulating the answer. So yeah, they already thought of us developers to have a little bit more influence on how things work.
Yeah.
But maybe it's nice if we just pull up the blog article where they talk about this stuff, and then we can touch upon the different features of what they actually released. So let me share my screen over here.
Because is this already available in the web interface or only via the API?
It's available through the Google AI Studio API, and it's also available through the Vertex AI suite, and it was already a little bit included in the Gemini kind of chat application. It was already in there somewhat for a while. But now you have way more control over how it actually works. Share my screen over here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you should see the blog article I just pulled up. This is their announcement. So it's announced on Halloween. I don't know if that's a coincidence, but it's a pretty awesome feature. Maybe people required some grounding on Halloween. I don't know. But yeah, here you can see the difference between turning grounding on and off. So this is a quick chat question they're asking, and here it formulates the answer, and it also includes sources in those answers. So some people might know this from Perplexity, and it's pretty similar to Perplexity, but in Perplexity you don't have the option to either include grounding or not. But it's an option here in Gemini, and you have all the other advantages of Gemini. So long context windows, very quick response times, etc. And for us as developers, it's interesting because of these 4 main points. So if we're building a solution that requires very accurate information, grounding can help to reduce hallucinations because you pull information from the internet, and if it contradicts with the answer the AI model was going to give, then the search results take priority, and therefore the answers should be better in the end. It would just be if I did my Google research and then give you an answer without me doing my Google research, basically. You can have more up-to-date information. So models are usually trained until a certain point in time. And if you ask for more recent information, for example, the recent news about a certain topic, it isn't able to answer that without going to use that browser feature, for instance, in ChatGPT, or now the grounding feature also in Gemini. So when you constantly need the latest information to give your answers, it's the ideal feature. The trustworthiness of traffic to publishers is also a big topic here, because you now get back all the links that were used to verify the output from the language model. So instead of all the AI companies just training on all their data, they now get some traffic back if someone is curious about why a model answered in a certain way. Then they get your click and your visit to their website. Interestingly enough, it also gives you more elaborate answers, because if you just ask your question without any context, it's also inclined to give you a short answer. These models are trained that way. But I think because you now include also all the information from the search results, it's more inclined to give you a bigger answer or a more detailed answer using that information that it searched for. that's also what you would expect when you send more information alongside your question or your instruction. So over here you can see the difference. If I'm asking, what is the smallest horse breed in the world, I just get a plain answer if I don't use grounding. And if I do use grounding, it's going to look for that information on the web, then gather more information about all these horses, and then give you a more elaborate response on your question.
But how do you know that the results it gets through the search are true? Because it can find a Wikipedia page with false statements on there, and then based on those false statements, adjust your answer.
Yeah, that's correct. So the quality of the search results is a big factor here.
Yeah.
But it's also combined with what the model already knows. So I would say it's mostly not worse than the model response by default.
Yeah.
Because it has this extra step in there. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't seen any benchmarks that either prove these answers are better or worse. I just...
Maybe it uses different sources to check the answer. So it's not just one source, not just one Wikipedia page, but it's multiple sources. And then if all these sources say it's true, then it's probably true.
Yeah, it does include, like, from multiple websites, all those sources together determine what the answer is going to be.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting about it. But maybe I should quickly show you how this more or less works for us as a developer. So I will pull up my Vertex environment, which is an AI studio for us developers, where you can test out these models, create your own API keys, and then use the Gemini models. So OpenAI has their API platform, Google has their AI studio and their Vertex AI suite, and then Anthropic has their own thing. But let me quickly show you how that looks for Gemini. So you should be able to see the Vertex AI studio over here. And this is our testing environment, but you can see all kinds of different options over here, and ways to fine-tune your models, which was already possible before, but we're now interested in the grounding feature. So if I pull up the playground over here, we can see that we can pick a model over here. Lots of different models. The newest ones are called can be recognized with the 002 label over here, and the default is iFlash. Let's use that one, and then over here we can pick a region. So let's say we want to pick a region. Also, one of the big advantages, by the way, over using OpenAI is that you can exactly say where you want your data to go to. So right now we're using the Gemini models hosted in the Netherlands, which is pretty interesting. As a developer, we don't have that feature in OpenAI's platform. It will just go to the nearest data center where it's available. Then over here, we have the new feature. So that's the grounding feature. And as I mentioned earlier, you can also customize it. Right here, you can only pick, okay, I want my own vector search or hybrid vector search. Then you can connect your own data store, but you can also say, no, I just want the Google search results. Then over here, we have a couple more options. This is the playground, and in the actual API, as we can build it as a developer, we are also able to pick a percentage in how many cases the search or the grounding feature will be used. So we saw that in the blog article over here. We have the ability to pass along a dynamic retrieval percentage. So the higher it is, the more often it will use the search feature. And if it's at 0, it will basically never use the search feature. But let's go into it. So Koen, do you have a good question for today?
Good question.
That requires relevant and recent information.
Does Gemini use watermarking in its text output?
In text output. Okay, let's see what it comes back with. You can see the Flash model is really, really fast, but you already see on which sources it's basing its answer, and you can even see the part of the response where it used these sources for. So that's quite interesting. Then of course we can we also get a couple of other features here in the playground where we can even suggest what people should Google for in terms of how they can find these answers and these sources mentioned here. But you can also immediately include those sources for the user. So also if we are building an AI application, we can immediately show where it comes from. So either think use cases of certain legislation that's relevant and that always has to be up to date when answering a question, then you will immediately see in the answer, and we can communicate that back to the user where the information is coming from. So the trustworthiness of the answer, is higher. But we can also ask maybe about the weather in Amsterdam today. So it knows it's the 4th of November, and it gives us the weather for today. I don't know if it's actually 3.4 degrees. Not entirely sure.
That's quite cold. It's not that cold today, I think.
Maybe it was the coolest point of the day.
Yeah, could be at night.
Yeah. But this is what I wanted to show about grounding. So I think this leads to great applications in business as well, where really relevant or recent information needs to be included, and we need to verify the answers. So it's basically a two-step now instead of a one-step answer where it immediately starts formulating. During formulation of the answers, it will actually use these sources to verify what it's outputting. And the cool thing is it works also with all the models. So also with their smartest model, we're now using Flash, which is their dumbest, fastest model. But it would also work with 1.5 Pro, which is pretty cool.
Nice, but still, if we would implement this in an application, we also need to share the sources where the grounding comes from, right?
Yeah, that also comes back.
Yeah. So we can show the user the grounding of the answer with links to the actual data sources where the grounding comes from.
Yeah.
Nice.
Exactly.
Nice.
All right, then maybe, Koen, you were going to talk a little bit about watermarking.
Yeah.
Let me.
Yeah. We just did a search on it as a test.
That's true. Yeah.
But a lot of companies, a lot of AI companies are struggling with the fact that with AI you can also generate a lot of content, images, text that can be used wrongly. So they are looking for multiple ways to watermark AI content so that as a user you can always spot if an image is generated by AI or a video compared to a real life picture or video. So for example, the elections are coming up in the United States tomorrow, and there's a lot of fake news, fake content going around on the internet, and with AI it's really easy to generate this content. So Google has been working on SynthID, which is their technology to watermark the outputs generated by the chat models of Google, so the Gemini chat models. These models output text, and with this technology, they can hide a pattern of words in the answer, which is some sort of fingerprint. And if you keep this text intact, Google can recognize this fingerprint and know that it's AI generated, and also link it back to the user that generated this content, which is also quite a privacy discussion as well, because now every text you generate with Gemini, there's a fingerprint in there, which you can't see, but the system can recognize the pattern of words, and then based on this fingerprint can relate it back to the 4th of November, us generating this text. So it has two sides of the story. So one side, it's really good that you can mark a text or a piece of content as AI generated to prevent fake news. But the downside is that if you generate content with this technology, people can always trace it back to you as a user.
Maybe a nuance there. I don't think other people might be able to do it, but Google might be able to do it, right? They have the algorithm determining how these fingerprinting works.
They open sourced this technology.
Okay, the technology, but you don't know how they create the keys, right?
No,
I assume that would be.
No, it's not. The fingerprint itself is stored somewhere on a Google server, which is only available to Google. So they know your fingerprint, but still, Google has a lot of data. And if they have all the text you generate with AI, for example, for myself, I also generate recipes to cook, for example. And if they store all this data and they can trace it back to me,
you don't want to send such a recipe to your friends, and they think you're really creative, and then they notice you generated with Gemini.
Yeah, then you lose your your good reputation as a cook. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's a struggle. A lot of AI companies are working on how to watermark content, but also prevent content becoming useless because everyone knows it's AI generated.
Yeah, it's a balance there. Of course, they want to prevent fraud, and I think this is really a feature to prevent fraud in the end, right? Not like spoil your reputation as a cook, but more in the more serious use cases. It could be really dangerous if people use AI generated content or video or whatever to fool people.
But also I think if I think in a lot of use cases when it's not tricky to use AI, if people know the text is generated with AI, then the perceived value of this content becomes a lot smaller.
Yeah.
So for example, the newspaper, if you read a news article in your favorite newspaper, it's a nice article, but when you know it's AI generated, then I think the perceived value of this article is probably going to be lower in the beginning.
Because someone didn't spend time on you.
Yeah.
That's how it feels, right?
So if this watermarking becomes more and more relevant, and maybe even necessary by law, that you need to show you generated this content with AI, I'm really curious about the value of this content. And how long are we going to produce content with AI if you need to show it's AI generated?
Yeah. So in some cases it's already required, of course, to show it's AI generated. Or AI played a role in outputting some content. But I don't know if we as regular users would be able to spot it with this update or this revelation from Google. I'm not entirely sure. Are they doing this since the beginning, or did they just announce the plans?
No, I think what I read is that they've been watermarking the content for a couple of months now, and they released this technology. They open sourced this technology 1.5 weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah. So they shared their way of watermarking content, but they've been watermarking content for quite a while now.
Yeah, it has been one of the bigger topics or debates at all these AI labs, right? They eventually they all want to do the watermarking, right?
Yeah.
At least they talk about it. From a safety perspective, it's perfectly understandable, but from a privacy perspective, it might not be.
Yeah.
But it's good that they open sourced it. Then at least you can see how it works to prevent it from happening.
And other smaller labs can also implement this technology, hopefully.
Yeah. If it weighs against those privacy concerns, yes. But on the other hand, I think if as a normal user, if you don't notice it and you know exactly what is done with that data, then it might be a good start in terms of AI safety. So if someone puts something really horrible out there, that you at least know, or Google knows who to reach out for.
Yeah.
And I think the last week was pretty slow, right? In terms of other topics we can discuss.
I think the only other larger thing is the GPT Search.
Yeah.
So right now OpenAI is it's releasing their GPT Search feature. So if you're a pro user, you now have a small globe icon in your chat window, and there you can enable the search. So when you ask a question and you have enabled this search functionality, then it first searches on the internet. Yeah, this little globe icon there.
Yeah, over here. And what's also now I'm thinking of another update as well, but let's discuss that after this. So let's also ask for the weather. That sounds more like it. 12 degrees.
Yeah, but did you enable the search feature?
Yeah, I did. So these are the search results that are included. This is the new part where it's now quoting which sources it uses, and
because I couldn't see it in
it
your
also
browser.
works pretty fast.
Yeah.
And this was already a little bit included in the other AI tool we mentioned before, Perplexity.
Yeah.
But of course, when Gemini does something or OpenAI does something, they copy each other. So this is pretty similar to the grounding feature, I think. At least now how I see it in the interface over here. But you can see that compared to my answer from Vertex, way more sources were used to base the answer on. And now you saw basically that ChatGPT was doing two steps. So first it was searching, then formulating its answer. And with the Vertex API, it seemed a little bit more seamless. And this is not really included yet, I think, in the developer suite of OpenAI, but I'm not entirely sure.
Not sure, no.
But yeah, this is an interesting update. Another interesting update is that Anthropic from the Claude models now also allow data analysis to happen in your browser. So if you update or if you ask a question here about a data set, it can go into your data set and then execute the code. Something that was already possible with ChatGPT. But Claude has this thing called artifacts, and they now expanded it to also be able to run code in your browser. So you can plot real-time graphs. So generate a graph numbers. So these are the Claude artifacts. And also now make these graphs for you and actually do all kinds of calculations as well in the browser. So now you see it's creating a Python function. Before it could only run client-side code. So that means the web interfaces of things. So it could generate that graph, but you needed to have the numbers you put in beforehand. And now it can actually go into a file and then execute the code over here, which it isn't doing right now, I think. But maybe we should dive into that next time.
Next week.
Next week.
Yeah. Maybe also next week we can look at the computer use by Anthropic, by Claude.
Yeah, that's also an interesting topic.
Maybe
Maybe a sneak peek.
Yeah. Now or
now?
Why not?
Yeah, a sneak peek in terms of words.
Yeah, let's go.
let's go. Yeah, I thought you were going to mention what it actually is, and then we'll show next week.
Okay, yeah. Well, I thought sneak peek. I thought you wanted to show us something, but no. Maybe a sneak peek in words. Then Anthropic or Claude, their AI model now has also a functionality called computer use, where it can actually run a virtual machine, so a virtual computer, and then perform tasks like it's a normal user. So in the example they gave, they show a spreadsheet with all kinds of customer information in there, and they want to do a check whether this information is available in the CRM system or not, to eventually fill in a certain form. And normally a person, a normal people would need to check the spreadsheet, look in the CRM system, and then fill in the form with all the information. With computer use, you can prompt or ask the AI model to perform this task. And then it starts to use your mouse in this virtual computer to perform the same task you would do as a human, which is really interesting for automating really repetitive tasks on computers.
Yeah, so we can demo that next week. But one interesting note here is that how we used to do it was creating connectors. Yeah, integrate those two data sources, so the Excel and CRM in this case, bring them together, then give them to an AI model. But if you have computer use, you don't need to build any integrations. So you don't need 7lab at all. You just ask the computer to do something for you, and then everything is done for you. So I guess
sounds terrible. Sounds terrible.
Sounds terrible, right? Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, but that's the future, Koen. So yeah, we'll just teach people how to use it first. But as we will see next week, it doesn't always work well, and it's pretty slow. So these are the two caveats that are pretty hard to solve, I think, in the next year or so. So we'll have at least a year to go.
Good to know. Good to know.
Good to know. And with that note, I think we should end it for today. I would like everyone that has watched this episode to know that subscribing is appreciated. And we'll try to keep you up to date with all the latest and greatest information about AI, recent developments, and how you could apply it for your business. Yeah, like, subscribe, help us.
See you next week.
See you next week. Thanks, Koen.
Yes, thanks. Ciao.